My name is Jeremy Biggers. I'm an artist based out of Dallas, Texas.
Love it. Cool.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
Easy.
I'm excited to be here with you today. We'll roll into it.
Yeah.
I know that I want to make sure that I get this quote correct because I thought it was really impressive.
Okay.
Dallas Magazine in 2017, you already know it, called you the hardest working multi-hyphenate, which is like a hell of a claim to fame. Serious. Yeah. How do you see one body of work or like one kind of discipline informing the other, and where are those intersections?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think being an artist, I think a very underrated part of being an artist is being a person. And so I think a lot of our humanity, a lot of our personhood informs how we move through our practices. I think a lot of times we separate the two and we don't really consider, the life that I've lived, the movies that I've watched, the music that I've listened to kind of inform how we're making work or what we're making work about. And so for me, I'm primarily consider myself a painter these days, but there are times where I'll take, a little break when I feel like I'm doing too much painting in a row. Then I'll, separate myself and say, okay, now I'm gonna get in my filmmaker bag, or I'm gonna go into my photography bag or my design bag. And I think the time that I usually spend away from the other practices, I've learned and lived enough life since the last time I picked up my camera or picked up my paintbrush that I can take something that I've learned in the filmmaking practice. Because a lot of the times I try to compartmentalize it in a way where I'm not overlapping too much at the same time. So I'm not filmmaking at the same time that I'm painting. I try to push one to the side until I'm ready to come back to it. And so I think that's, like I said, I've lived enough life that it kind of helps me become a better painter or become a better photographer or filmmaker. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I love that idea of just being like a whole person and seeing how that works out. Do you feel film or photography or like painting informing one part of your person more than another? Like if you're feeling really happy, do you like go to paint? Or if you're feeling like really intensely sad, is it photography? Or like how does that work?
Man, I don't know that I separate them in that way. I think I'm more of I find more joy and freedom these days in filmmaking because I don't really offer that as a service anymore. When I offered it as a service, it felt like work. It felt like I needed to go in here and I have to provide a service to someone. And so it made me kind of fall out of love with just the filmmaking aspect. So now when I'm in a good mood or I'm like, I'm really feeling, the juices and I really want to go make something, I find myself getting excited more about going and making films. And it's just because I haven't done that in so long that it's like an itch that I haven't been able to scratch for a few years or a couple of years. So being able to go to that, definitely I find myself leaning more to the filmmaking side of that's where I relax. That's the stuff I do for fun versus nowadays I'm almost exclusively painting. And so while I still will find projects and paintings to make personal and make it fun for me, I still use, I still do a lot of, how I make money, how I make an income is making paintings and selling paintings. And so usually if it's a commission or anything like that, it is what it is. Like it's a necessary thing for me to finish. So if I find myself doing too many commissions in a row or too many pieces for other people in a row, then I'll come back to, let me paint something just for me. And I don't care if it sells. I don't care if it's going somewhere. It's something that I'm just going to paint and just live in the studio with me for a while.
Right.
And I'm not going to post it on Instagram. Nobody's going to know it exists until I'm ready for them to know it exists.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like one for them, one for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
I really appreciate that.
Exactly.
And, film being completely untethered to that space, I think is really important too for your longevity as an artist. Okay, that's really interesting because I was also I was interested in your mural work, of course, which I feel like that's how a lot of people just walking around Dallas, even if they don't know the name Jeremy Biggers, they know the work of Jeremy Biggers. It's everywhere. So how do you why murals? The skill in and of itself is like so intense, it's almost its own art form. So I was interested in that.
Yeah, so with murals, I grew up in South Dallas near Fair Park, and I never really felt like I saw a high quality artwork anywhere. There were murals that existed, but they were usually done by amateurs and not professionals. And so I didn't really see that as something that was a goal of mine because it just didn't seem attainable. It didn't even register as something that people did. And so once I got to a point in my career where things were starting to pick up and I started to see a lot more traction on my studio side of things, I wanted to bring artwork to people who didn't feel welcome in museums or didn't feel welcome in galleries. Because a lot of people that I grew up with in the neighborhood that I grew up in, they would never set foot in a gallery. They never go north of, a certain part of the highway or a certain part of town. So that's where all the galleries are. So they would never even know that they exist, much less set foot in them or feel welcome in them. And so for me, it was about bringing high quality work to people who otherwise wouldn't go out and see those. And it also benefited the fact that like a lot of galleries and museums, they do a really good job or a really terrible job of making people feel unwelcome in their spaces. And so being able to make work that people can get up on, they don't have a docent breathing down their neck telling them, back up, you got to get back. Like if they want to get right up on it, if they want to touch it, if they want to do whatever they want to do to like experience it, they can do that in the streets. If it's another young artist or someone who's trying to get into that, they can get right up on it and see every single, can stroke or brush stroke and see like, okay, how was this made? I can kind of dissect it in a way where I can kind of put, figure out how to reverse engineer this so that I can go out and go do my own thing. So even when I'm not there to help them or explain to them, this is how you do it, they can, use little breadcrumbs to figure out like, oh, okay, I can bridge the gap between something that I just haven't been able to connect those dots on for themselves. And so it was really important for me to bring artwork to those communities nationwide. So I try to do at least one free mural a year for neighborhoods that are similar to where I grew up.
That's really cool. Yeah. I love that you're bringing up like just being in a museum and then being like, hey, you need to back up. There's definitely been me a couple times where I'm like, I'm trying to see something. And it changes the idea of it being like public art. It's not just public because we can see it. It's public because you can actually experience it and like learn from it and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. I did some stalking on your website.
That's what it's there for. That's what it's there for.
But, and you're talking about this idea of like open dialogue with your spaces. Do you see, since you've made that transition more from public art into like gallery spaces, do you see like that dialogue happening in a different way? Because you're in a cool gallery, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. I think both. I think both of them are necessary in terms of, for me, how I approach the mural side of things is a little bit different than how I approach the, fine art gallery side of things. And so it's important to me for both of them to exist at the same time. So I'm probably nowadays doing 50% fine art gallery stuff and then 50% murals. Like I said, it's important for me to do both, to be able to bring, again, to the point that I just made. Like, I think it's important to democratize art to an extent, while also, feeding the gallery monster as well. Like, it's a necessary, especially if you're, depending on what your goals are in the art world and what you're trying to do in that space. It's necessary for me to do both, because a lot of times, like I said, the gallery I work with Daisha Board, she's amazing. So it works out like to be able to like promote her and her space. But outside of her, there's other galleries that I've worked with that haven't been as receptive to me being able to, give the work away to the people. So like I said, it's important for me to do both. That way I can feed the hardcore collectors as well as the quote unquote regular people.
Yeah, absolutely. Two wolves. I love that. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about the meaning of community and how you kind of like build that with some of the work you have, which I know you like to feature a lot of like prominent community members in Dallas in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important for me to just incorporate and use people that I know in real life. My work is about authenticity and making sure I'm talking to people who are real people and I'm telling their stories and using, their likeness and saying, all right, these are people, because as much as I'm a painter and as much as I'm an artist, I like to consider myself a documentarian. And so I want to represent, these are the clothes we're wearing right now. This is the fashion. These are the things that are important to us right now. I want us to look back, 10, 15, 20 years and be like, why were we wearing that? Like, we were so out of pocket for wearing that. I like the fact that it's like a little time capsule of showing, where we are, the things that were important. It's reminiscent of, artists like Barkley Hendricks, Kehinde Wiley does that a lot too. And I think that's it's important to kind of be a historian of the culture. And so for me, the easiest way to do that is include people, like real people, and have them be their full, most authentic selves.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I love the idea of being like a documentarian with like real people that you know now. And it makes me feel even a little bit of FOMO, even though I'm still here. I'm like, I could be a part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want to pivot a little bit because I especially like the fact that you're looking outward into your community, but you're still making sure those pieces have you in it with like the motif of the polka dots and whatnot. If you wanted to say more about that.
Yeah, I like to consider, even though I'm painting other people abstractly, I would like to consider it still a self-portrait in a way. And so to your point, like, I think that's an important part is, even though I'm telling other people's stories, it's still selfishly a self-portrait in a way. And so I'm glad you brought that up. That's amazing. The dots in my work are a representation of my mom. When my mom passed away, a ladybug landed on me or near me the entire week that we were planning her funeral. And so I started seeing ladybugs as my mom revisiting me and comforting me. And I would hide the ladybugs in my work going forward. I would, hide the ladybug in the painting. I would put it on the side of the panel, the back, the bottom of the canvas, because I wanted people to experience the ladybugs the same way I was experiencing the ladybugs, just in the most random times. But then over time, my mom was my favorite, or my first art supporter, my first art fan. And over time, I didn't want to continue to hide her in the work. I wanted her to be more at the forefront of what I was doing, because without her pouring into me and putting me in these positions to become a professional artist, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for her. So I wanted to figure out a way, how can I paint a ladybug in every piece without painting a ladybug in every piece? And I went to school for graphic design, and all through graphic design school, they're telling you, say the same thing with less information, say the same thing with less words. And so I was like, how do I paint a ladybug in every piece without it being a ladybug in every piece? I can paint polka dots. And then from that, I can use that as a narrative tool. I can use that as a graphic element. I can use it as a way to move the viewer's eye through the piece compositionally. So like I said, it's something that, a lot of my work is about the usage of light and the way light plays on our skin, and that can photograph really photographically. Maybe, in person it looks like a painting, but through a 2-inch phone screen, it's going to look like, oh, this is a photograph. I can just scroll past this. I don't have to look at that. And so being able to add the dots kind of added another element to my work that made people slow down and kind of really look at it in person as well as online. And it allows me to play with like a flat surface. Like a painting is a 2D surface with, I work really hard to render light and render, form. And so being able to play with the foreground, the middle ground, and the background using the dots is something that's important to what I'm doing.
That's beautiful. And I love the journey of like having it hidden and then having it being like very forefront and obvious. I think it's really, really beautiful. Yeah, I'm taking a little moment. I like that a lot. And I think people are going to be, it's one thing to read it and be like, okay, this was how this is informing it. And it's another thing to see the piece. And then I'm like looking at this piece behind you and I'm like, okay, yeah, that changes things for me a lot. On that same vein of like how you're coming up and how you're getting into art, we have this thing at Nostalgia Noise, which we have like a Be a Kid Again campaign. We're kind of like talking and playing with this idea of your most vulnerable self and your like bravest self that can just go and create and whatever is like your childish self. And so I wanted to talk more about what that kid again looks like for you and how you even came into the art world as a kid.
Man, for me, being a kid again is, I joke that being an artist as a professional, being an artist as an adult is the exact same feeling as when you used to draw and your mom or dad would put your work on the refrigerator. It's just the refrigerators are a lot more expensive and nicer now, being a gallery or being the side of a whole building. But it's still the same sentiment. Like you're trying to like, look what I made. Like you're showing people, look what I made, and getting people's response to that. And I think for me, that being a kid again is something that fortunately, I'm fortunate enough that I never let that leave, that feeling, and always chase the feeling of like, I made this with my hands, and the goal for me with every painting is to be the best painting I've ever made. So sometimes when I sit back and look at it after I'm done making the painting, months later, days later, years later, being able to see it and just be like, yo, like this was so painstakingly like done that there was times, especially with the large scale paintings that I'm doing now, where I'm like, oh, I got to do that again today. Like another painting, like another day of me painting the exact same thing. But when you see it a year later, you don't remember all those days of working on it. All you see is the finished product, and you're like, bro, how did I pull this off? Like, this is amazing. So, like I said, for me, being a kid again would be just like I said, doing the same stuff that I'm already doing, and being maybe a little more fearless. Just being like, yo, I'm out here. I can do whatever I want. There's no rules to this. And that's one of the things that I try to, anytime somebody asks me for advice, that's one of the things I always tell them is every person you've ever met in your life is making it up as they go. Like your parents, your teachers, your pastor, your whoever. Everybody is freestyling and making it up. They're all just scared children in adult bodies. And so, yeah, it's once you realize that everyone is making it up and nobody has it figured out, it becomes a lot less stressful because you're just like, yeah, nobody cares. Like,
it's everybody's first time.
It's everybody's first time. We're out here trying to figure it out, and there's no pressure. There's no rules to it. Like, and for me, remembering 4 + 4 is 8, but also 6 + 2 is 8. Also 7 + 1 is 8. Like, there's so many ways to get to the same result that ain't no rules to this shit. You can do whatever you want, and yeah. Or even if I gave you the exact blueprint, you still wouldn't get the same results.
Be like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just realizing that who cares? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of people that get to that realization. So like, sometimes it takes some time. So that's really cool. That you're like, never left me. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So on that thing about like all the art you do is your parents' fridge. What's the next fridge? What's up next for you?
Man, the next fridge. That's a great way of thinking about that. I think the short-term goal for me is to do a museum exhibition and get some museum acquisitions. I've done a lot of gallery shows. I've done a lot of murals in different places, but I think short-term wise, doing murals out of the country as well as doing museum exhibitions would be amazing.
I'm going to hear more about those murals out of the country. It's like,
Same. Yeah.
We're about to brainstorm.
Yeah. I want to make some stuff happen outside of the.
Do you have any countries in mind that you're like, I think that, like that idea of community that you could like build on or something like that?
I don't. Yeah, I want to go anywhere that wants to have me. So whoever wants to make that happen, I'm down. And it's gonna be a special place wherever, because it's gonna be this is my first out of town, like out of the country mural. So yeah, I'm not particular. I don't really care where it is. Yeah.
I love your mindset. You're like 6 + 2. It's gonna work.
Yeah, it's gonna work.
It's gonna work when I get there.
How hard can it be? This sounds uglier than I intended, but people a lot dumber than me have figured it out. So how hard can it be? Yeah, how hard can it be?
Yeah. Wait, I love that. I think I love the way that you kind of like move through things, and all my questions are done, but I want to know what's on your mind that you feel comfortable sharing, or even how you break some of the monotony of your work, because I know that I'm looking at this and I'm like, ain't no way, I know you're on a nose for like 4 hours or something ridiculous.
It's not that bad at all.
Is it not? Okay.
No, it's not that bad at all. I try to make all my works, I try to make them exist in a series, because I think that's the most, I think that's the best way to tell the story is through multiple images. From a filmmaking background, most filmmaking is done at 24 frames a second. So you have, 24 frames every single second to tell a story. And with the painting, you have one single frame to tell that same story. And I think it's important to tell the same story through different frames. Like, you can't, yes, I could, make a painting that's my, magnum opus, the best thing I've ever done. But I think it's important to tell the story from as many different angles as I can to get a more robust version of whatever the series is or whatever the thought that I'm trying to express is. And so sometimes I'll do that through film, sometimes I'll do that through photography, but sometimes it's through painting as well. And so making paintings that are authentic to whatever that idea is, I think is important to, like I said, to my process. And I try to make the series more personal, whereas a few years back I would just paint for painting's sake, because I truly believed in order to get the gallery shows, in order to get the museum shows, you have to be the best technical painter there ever has been. And so I really, put in hours in the lab of becoming the best technical painter I could be. But it took me way too long to realize it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be the most technically sound painter. You can be, you can have great ideas and not be technically sound at all. You can have, honestly, really shitty paintings. But if the concept is there or the story is there, that's sometimes more important, or the relationship with the person that owns the gallery or the person that owns the museum or the person that's looking for, an artist to do whatever. Those things are more important than the painting itself a lot of times. And so for me, coming to that realization, like I said, I was working on paintings just for painting's sake, and coming to that realization a few years back, I started making paintings that were more personal, that were less broad, that I wasn't trying to necessarily make work that everyone could relate to. I made it more personal, like, yo, this is important to me, and I'm gonna put these out because I believe in this. And if it's something that resonates with you, then cool, that's perfect. But if it doesn't, that's not my concern. Like, my concern is, can I tell a story and use my experience to tell the story?
Right, I'm telling my story. That's really cool. And I'm definitely seeing the filmmaking part of your brain work as you talk about that too.
Yeah.
I'm in 2 film classes. I can't say that it's okay whatsoever. But my film professor would always talk about you're either telling the story this way or you're telling it this way.
Yeah.
And being able to be okay, so this series allows me to tell the story, and it's not gonna be for everybody, but when you get it, people probably get it. I think it's super sick.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fire.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, I'm about to. I'm like,
I didn't like him. That's fine.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, that's dope.
Yeah, cool. I think that's everything I have, but I don't want to cut you off. I'm enjoying the key.
No, that's all I got. That's
cool.
Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, this is tight. This is super tight.